let's take a look at a few ways we can refine skin deformations. So in the last lesson, we learned that we can use envelope capsules to adjust the initial weighting we receive from each bone. Now, I would also like to point out that sometimes we don't quite see the envelope capsule update until after we have saved out our scene and have reopened. So in this file, this is exactly where we left off from the previous lesson, where we made a minor tweak to the head's envelope capsule. But remember, we saw a lot of influence around the shoulders. However, in this scene, that is no longer the case, because the skin modifier has updated. So I just wanted to point that out about envelope capsules. Again, sometimes we can see that change instantly, but a lot of times we'll just need to go ahead and save our file out and reopen it just to kind of refresh the skin. Now, even after that, we still can see some harsh areas that will need to be tweaked. So we'll take a look at some cool tools we can use to fix these harsh areas. I'd highly recommend taking a look at your mesh and wireframe, because that will show you how rough each edge and vertex looks, so that you know exactly how to tweak them to kind of smooth things out. So by the end of this, we want very smooth edge flow. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at some of these tools. Now, if we were to go ahead and scroll down in our modify panel, right at the end of the parameters rollout, what we'll find are our weight tool, weight table, and paint weight options. So the weight table, this is a data sheet that shows us the exact weighting of each selected point. Now the weight tool, this is kind of like a condensed version of the weight table, and it also has some cool preset options to quickly adjust weighting. The paint weight brush is a way of interactively going in and editing our weight by simply painting that change. So we'll take a look at each of those. We'll first start with the weight tool. Now, if we were to go ahead and scroll up to the top, we'll need to go ahead and enable vertices so we can go ahead and select the vertices that we would like to reweight. So I'll go ahead and select the point around the neck. And with these selected, now if we were to go ahead and take a look at our weight tool, let's go ahead and see this. We'll see that this shows us how many points we have selected, as well as the envelope object that currently influences this selection. You can see that we don't see the torso added to this list simply because it does not influence these points. So if we wanted to add it to this list, we'd have to use tools like the paintbrush or the weight table just to add a minor amount of influence so we can go ahead and load that object in. Alright, so that's what we'll do. Let's go ahead and head over to the weight table. Again, this is going to show us all of our weighting. You can see here that there are a lot of points, here are our vertices here, that don't have any weighting at all. So these lines represent, and then the one essentially tells us that there's a full amount of weighting on this envelope object. Here's the torso, here's the head. Now we only have 7 points selected, but we could see all of our points in this list. Thankfully, we can go ahead and filter out our selection by simply changing our filter type to selected vertices. Much better. Alright, so notice we can now go ahead and add a little bit of influence to the torso. We could either go in and plug in a small value here, let's say about 0.1. Or, if we wanted to, we can go ahead and highlight all of the vertices here, and then we can go ahead and put in a value of 0.1 to apply that to each of our points. I'm going to close out of the weight tool, and I'll go ahead and reopen it, and now we can see the torso added to our list. And you could also see that the points have pulled down just slightly. So let's go ahead and try to work with a preset. Let's go ahead and take the torso and add about 50% weighting to it. So with it selected in the weight tool, we'll go ahead and use 50%. And now notice we have a nice blend. Let's go ahead and scrub through. That looks much better. Alright, so that's a look at how we can work with the weight tool. We've already taken a look at the weight table. So what I'd like to introduce you to next is the paintbrush, because chances are you'll use this quite often to refine deformations. So the first thing we'll do is take a look at our paint weight options. So here we can adjust the amount of strength we're able to paint. So with it set to 1 as our max strength, we're going to paint 100%. And here's the max size of our paintbrush. 20 might be a little large. We can go ahead and take a look at the paintbrush by enabling it here. And notice how large a value of 20 is. So we might want to bring this down to about 1 to start with. That's much better. Alright, great. We'll also want to drop the max weight, I'd say to about, let's say, 0.1. So we could start to paint 10% and add that amount of weight. Now another thing I like to do is change the paint interpolation from smooth to harsh. That way we can block in weight, and then we could start to refine from there. So right now with this interpolation set to smooth, that's exactly what we'll paint, a smooth amount of weight. So what I'll do is go ahead and make sure we have the heads envelope selected so we could start to paint more influence to that object. A quick way to do that is to disable the paintbrush, go ahead and select the envelope, and then you can go back to the paintbrush and start to add some weight. So you can see here that as we paint, it's very smooth. Now we can change this to a fast fall off, and that is a way of blocking in weight. So notice what we paint is a bit harsher now. So you might start with a harsh brush, and then you can go ahead and go back to your smooth brush to kind of polish your weights. So I'll set this back to rough, and I'll start to just go in and adjust the weighting. Alright, great. So what you can see here is that instantly we're able to see a very nice change to our topology. So we start to scrub through the animation. Notice how well everything is starting to deform. Alright, remember you can always decrease your brush's strength. I might set this to about 0.05 if you find that what you're painting is a bit too much. Now if you were to hold Alt and click, that's a way of removing that same amount of weight. So that's just a quick tip to keep in mind. So what we'd want to do is just go through and start to adjust each point, just kind of paint through until we have smooth the mesh out. There isn't much to tweak here at all. So we just want to go through and get the best result possible. But in the next lesson, what I'm going to go ahead and show you is a way we can mirror these changes across so we could save plenty of time.